Good morning. Leslie just provided a great segue as far as my talk goes. I think it's important that we recognize, and I know there's a lot of very professionals in the crowd here, that there's a real frustration on our part that customers many times don't embrace the fact that they need help. And I think it's really refreshing to have a company such as General Mills recognize that they do have problems and they do want to reach out. And so that's exactly really what I want to try to do today relative to talking about what CAGI has to offer. And who we are, what we provide, and how we try to position ourselves to work together as the voice of the compressed air industry. So what is CAGI? CAGI started in 1915. A group of manufacturers associated with the air industry decided that they needed to find a way to have a one-stop shop for compressed air needs and join forces. And that became the Compressed Air and Gas Institute, or CAGI, just in case you are lacking acronyms in your life, just one more to think about. Today, despite all the globalization and the industry consolidations and coalescing of people, CAGI has a membership of 45 people, very strong, and we've been growing. It's quite intriguing to see that in the era as things are actually consolidating a little bit, we're getting more members attracted to CAGI. So we know that we're doing something inherently right in what we do. So my objective today is really to convey to you some of the resources that we have that are available to you as professionals. We want interaction with you. We know we're here to serve you in many ways. And part of that solution is, and you'll see this woven out throughout the presentation, it really boils down to having an educated customer. Because the more educated the customer is, the more our life becomes palatable from the standpoint of actually executing something. So educated customers are our best customers. And so thematically, we want to be able to go through the process of having material available to both yourselves and to end users alike, so that we can jointly figure out problems such as what Leslie in very live terms talked to us about. So the members of CAGI are actively engaged in the manufacture of air and gas compressors, pneumatic equipment, tools, blowers and vacuum technologies, compressed air and gas dehydration, and nitrogen generation. So doing well. From a mission and objective standpoint, we look for cooperation among members. We are a bunch of competitors in a room. We all had to learn to leave our logo and our brand awareness at the door in order to have a cooperative effort and do things jointly for the common good of the industry. Developing standards. This is some really tedious work. It was the original solution for insomnia from my standpoint. It is some drudgery work, but I have to tell you, in all my years in the compressed air business, I've really learned to respect and enjoy the fact that there are people that do enjoy those kind of things. And we need it. It's a foundation of everything we do. So I do admire the fact that they're willing to spend time in there. It's such a critical aspect of what is happening from a global standpoint. So we're happy and appreciative that we have people and experts in the industry that help us with the development of those standards. Naturally, we're looking to increase the awareness and use of compressed air, and we do that by touting, hopefully, efficiency gains and system benefits that the end users can take advantage of. One of the other benefits for CAGI as a member is that the dissemination of data, information, statistical data, that we can assess how the market's moving, how the market's changing perhaps in variable speed versus standard fixed speeds, those kind of things. And then lastly, it's becoming more of an issue, which is just the interface with governmental bodies and regulatory kind of bodies. It's great to have a united voice. As a member of CAGI, some companies just don't have the resources to go at it alone. So it's a great unification of resources to be able to work in concert with government and regulatory to come up with a solution that isn't just handed to us and is incorrect. From a resource pool, what we try to do is, again, watch the standards and test methods. Lots of things surrounding education. All these things that we see here are e-learning programs, educational materials, and then performance verifications. We took a lot on. I'll talk about that in just a second here, about measuring ourselves, our own performance. We're all driven to make much more energy efficient compressors. That's what drives the competitive nature within each of our companies. Also, we can provide personnel certification programs. Many of you in this room have been in the business a long time. Your expertise deserves to be recognized and touted in the industry. And the CAGI kind of provides a way to separate yourself from the typical person who doesn't have those kind of credentials. So we're really happy to offer those kinds of programs that you can take advantage of. And I can tell you, they're not for the weak-kneed as far as the testing program goes. So we participate in international test standards with the International Standards Organization on things like you see here on displacement acceptance tests of compressors, of dryers, of filtration, test codes for electric-driven air packages, and low pressure. We're seeing lots of movement in the industry about, Leslie mentioned, inappropriate use, where they're using compressed air and regulating down when they could more effectively be using some blower or a vacuum system. So lots of dynamics going on there. And then we're working on simplified acceptance tests for bare pumps for vacuum. So the performance verification program is one of the highlights, and it took a long time within CAGI to get this actually achieved, and it's been in place since 2006, but it's really a self-policing of the industry. Lots of things were going on at different companies, and the era of rebates and people spending money at customers and then not getting the result, not necessarily because they did something wrong, but because the product itself wasn't meeting the numbers that were being advertised. So we started lacking some credibility. So we took a strong position about policing ourselves and have increased that credibility. I think today you would probably acknowledge that people are out shopping for compressors almost inherently will ask for CAGI data sheets because they recognize that this is a standard that's been developed that I can put everybody on parity, and all the competitors, nobody's arguing about the how you're measuring flow and power anymore. We've overcome those kind of things. So we're really happy about what we've achieved here. Also, from the governmental standpoint, when the DOE promulgated the whole issue of regulation on air compressors, I think they were very surprised that we had already engaged in a program ourselves and we're doing this self-policing of third-party verification. So we kind of put ourselves out in the public domain, and I don't know if you recognize, you can go to the website and you can see if we fail a compressor, you see it. So we're on public display, and so there's no hiding these things, and obviously as a membership we want people to adhere to the terms of what they're advertising, and the verification program is really a hallmark of success for us. There are programs for self-learning, and these are programs much like what Leslie mentioned, where they may be reaching out and looking for bits and pieces of information. Compressed air basics. These are things you can sign up to take the courses, types of compressors. You have questions about capacity controls, controlling waste, air treatment. Any number of subjects are available within your reach just over the internet. There's also, education resources. The old, if you've been in the industry long enough, you remember the great big War and Peace novel, The Compressed Air and Gas Handbook, that we had to meticulously put into digital form, and it was no easy task. And so we've made that available along with some videos that are free of charge that you can download a specific chapter, whatever your interest might be. And so it's another one of those things that we're putting out there for the public to draw on to, again, try to get more educated customers. From the personnel certification program I mentioned, this is really aimed at helping users and owners to identify air system professionals, and we really are trying to make this a prominent thing so that people can stand out And I think it's going to be very challenging as people, engage in the program and engage in the testing. And the certification will be a badge of honor once that's achieved. We're very confident of that. We have some other sessions that we'll be going through later on this afternoon, 2:45 to 3:15. We have a session with Jay Francis on air drying and filtration. Just like you guys have been involved with many applications, the dehydration needs vary just like the air compressor needs for any particular location. So you don't want to just come in and offer your standard package. You need to do, as Leslie mentioned, listen to the customer, find out what the application demands, and do your dehydration accordingly. So Jay's going to cover why the air needs to be treated, different methods that they use, and how air treatment equipment affects the overall performance of the system. So, we're seeing that it isn't just a compressor world. Most of us are very much becoming involved in much more of a system approach, and certainly dehydration is a big factor within the Compressed Air and Gas Institute on how we go about meeting the needs of customers. Equally as important is the confusion, at least for me, as the digital revolution unfolds and continues to evolve as it relates to compressed air. And this has a lot to do with the benefits of monitoring, condition-based monitoring and remote monitoring, predictive maintenance, having customers have an awareness of what's going on in their system. I know it has to be frustrating for many of you who are in the audit side of the business, where you go in and fine-tune an application, you have it running like a Swiss watch, and a month later, the plant has made a bunch of changes and it's totally out of sync anymore. So, all the good things that went into what you did have been corrupted in some ways. So putting things in place like the condition-based monitoring and remote monitoring allow you to stay in contact with the customer and keep them tuned in over the course of time. Manufacturing plants change as the needs of their business changes, and you're going to have to be iterative in how you approach customers, not just a one solution stop like the people that were trying to fix the leaks at General Mills. They were offering a solution that really wasn't very attractive. So I think Jan will provide some real life information here as in this important area. Okay, another session that has gained a lot of importance, and this is no secret. I mean, the heat put off by compressors is an immense asset. And while many people know that it is, they don't do anything about it. So we want to spend a little time talking about, how to generate the more interest in this as a potential reuse in today's era of repurposing. This is an absolute gem of a project that you're taking exhausted heat and putting it to use in some other manner, much of a freebie, but it's putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And Wayne will do a nice job talking about the options that they have. I think he has some good case studies to share with you. So it should be a very important and interesting session. Finally, the vacuum and blower will have a standards and application session. This is really aimed at energy efficiency of low pressure package blowers and vacuum pumps. This is an initiative that's just getting started. We're trying to form the standards in the industry. They can talk about the importance and how that applies to anything you might be working on. So I would encourage you certainly to participate in those sessions and take advantage of the expertise that's within the other members of CAGI. So most of you, I think, are familiar with CAGI, but please stop by the booth or visit the website. We want information out there that's useful for people. If you have input, if you have criticisms, if you have anything, we want to be open-minded. It's information that's available so that we can help us be the voice of the compressed air industry. I loop back to my initial comments and talk about educated customers. You guys are really the most important aspect of that because you're out there in the firing line in many ways, talking to end users. So we appreciate the engaged conversations that we can have to try to foster something that's meaningful and beneficial for you in the long term. So I hope that you enjoy your experience at the Expo. Thank you for giving me some time to talk through about the benefits of CAGI. And I hope that this has been informational for you. Thank you very much.